Good evening, everyone. John Henry Soto here, along with George Batista. Welcome to the Artist Blueprint Live. We have a really fun show this evening. We're going to be talking about podcasting, but not just podcasting. We're going to be talking about our journey and our experiences and what worked, what didn't work. And trust me, there was a lot of ups and downs in this. And our encouragement to others to go out and do stuff like this. I mean, it's one of the things that we really enjoy about this is we get to share with others, and we also get to inspire others to want to do podcasts. And I've done so many things with people, just showing them how to equipment and what software, what to use, and all that stuff. And it's been a good journey overall. So, how you doing, George?
I am fantastic. I always enjoy being here with you, my friend, my cousin.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun doing this. We were just talking about that right before we went live. We love our guests, and we love to have guests on. But we also enjoy this when we get to actually pick a topic and then riff on it for an hour with y'all.
Agreed.
Hopefully provide value that you can take with you and apply immediately, which is part of the reason why this artist blueprint exists. So by the end of this episode, you can actually be confident that you can go start a podcast. That's the whole point of this. It's like, oh, that's what you do. Cool. So grab your pen and paper, because we're gonna pen and paper, yes, or pencil.
They still use pen and paper.
Yeah, pen and paper. Because the other day I said, grab your pen and pencil. I don't know why I said that. I think that was some other thing.
Grab your iPad and your iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. So grab your smart board.
Yeah.
Start. So first we're going to do some love. We're going to give some love to our sponsor before we get started here. So George, please take it away.
Thank you, sir. The Artist Blueprint is brought to you by Wellness Resources, a family-owned and operated nutritional supplement company providing the highest quality, clinically formulated supplements since 1985. Wow, how old was I in 1985? We don't want to get into that. Anyway, find out why. They are amazing supplements. I love them. I use them every single day, and a lot of other people use them around the world. Check them out at myvitaminresource.com. Now, of course, don't forget, we have a promo code, and we have a new promo code that John hasn't changed yet. But the new promo code is Artist Blueprint. So if you enter the promo code Artist Blueprint, you will get free shipping on your order. And then on top of that, you have their monthly specials. And this month special is on their thyroid and metabolism supplements. So you can check them out. Check out Thyroid Helper. And of course, their Daily Energy Multivitamin. Great stuff. And, if you guys are looking to help thyroid health and just energy in general, fantastic stuff. So again, Wellness Resources at myvitaminresource.com.
Yes, I have to take that thing. I have to change that because it's a video. So like this wellness, I think it's a whole like a little video thing. It's like an insert thing. So I got to go back and create a brand new one.
So create a brand new one.
Shut up.
What's wrong with you? Do it.
Do it.
This is one of those things you do in the podcast.
You gotta show you how to do a podcast. It's gonna be important. I want you to pay attention. Get your pen and paper down. Get your pen and pencil, because we're gonna get the smart board to do podcasting. All right. Well, we are going to actually hopefully teach you the right thing to do. But that is actually a very interesting point, because there is also a management outside. Right. When we're done with all this funness, then you have to kind of go back and you got to do the graphics, and you got to do like this little graphic thing is nothing complicated, but it has to be done. All of these graphics that I've created, throughout the years, they all have to be done. We don't have a graphics team, so that's part of the fun. So, all right, we're gonna get started now. One of the things that I run into the most, I think, when we're talking, and George, I think you're a perfect person for this episode because you are sort of the epitome of someone that is
Stupid.
right. You took the words right out of my mouth. You took the word right out of my mouth. Um, someone who was who had the a little bit of nervousness or fear, or just wasn't as outgoing, and now you have a successful podcast. And by the way, everyone, to congratulate George because he just got, what was it, 100,000 downloads on your podcast.
Yes, yes,
100,000 downloads. So we're
yes.
talking successful actions here. So this is a very, very important fact, and the reason why we want to continue to do these shows where we show, educate people and let them understand that your voice is important. People say, well, nobody wants to hear. I have people tell me this. Nobody cares about what are you talking about? Nobody cares. You just invalidated everything you stand for, your whole viewpoint, everything, because of what you just said. Words are important, and how we use them matters. And if we use them in a negative fashion consistently, we're only going to pull in negative results.
Well said, John.
Thank you very much. Sometimes I say things good. Um, so let's talk a little bit about these fears. George, go ahead.
No, 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 I was going to say, and we can get into it as we go. But that was one of the things when I mean, I'll talk about my story as we go, but that was one of the things I said to myself when I started. Actually, it was very negative. It was like, well, nobody wants to. Who wants to listen to me? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a. I don't. I'm not an esteemed guy, published or has degrees in this and that. So why would people want to listen to me? So that was one of the things I had to kind of overcome for myself in doing this type of thing. So, but yeah, we can definitely get into that.
Yeah, yeah. And just to show, Sean said, just do it.
All right,
All right.
or just DeWitt.
I will. I'll get that all fixed this over the next week. I'll get our proper promo code. Okay, so we're gonna go. I was trying to print this out, but for some reason it didn't print out. So I'm gonna actually just open it up like this. You can still see everything. See me, right?
I can see you. Yes.
Okay. So obviously, the one of the first things is the fear of failure, right? And we hear about this consistently on social media platforms and on different podcasts and the motivational podcasting. It's always talked about. It's the fear of failure, right? Because people are like, well, what if I go out there and everybody hates me and I don't succeed? You know, okay. And what if you go out there and be incredibly successful?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and then what?
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's the fear that you're of rejection. We live in a society that sometimes promotes wrong things. Sometimes they promote
Really?
things that may not be survival, right? It doesn't make you a person survive or society survive better, and it gets promoted. We talked about this before, right before we came on the air about Satan getting into the music industry now, right? And the satanic music, and people are buying these records promoted by these guys that come out and are they're out there like singing their song dressed as Satan.
Right.
Well, I'm not about that. I don't like that. I don't want to promote that, but apparently somebody's doing it because they're selling records and somebody's pushing that agenda, right? So the fear of failure, you see that and you're thinking, well, that's being successful. I don't want to be like that. Well, you don't have to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
What you have to do, and the most important thing about getting through the fear, is finding out what you want to communicate.
Right.
That's the main thing. It's like, what do you want to say? People start podcasts sometimes because they think that they're really great at speaking or at conversation. They can get into conversation, but what do you want to say? Like, and it took a long time for George and I to get to that point. We kind of started with, we were talking about Star Trek. We were talking about Bob Ross. We were talking about Rush, the band Rush. We talked about, we were just kind of like riffing on things that
Moon landings.
moon landing, the pyramids. I mean, we've talked about everything.
Everything.
yeah, and we were trying to find our voice, and it really wasn't until I had a conversation with Brian Pierce. I don't know if he's watching, but Brian Pierce, who's my business partner at JHS Talent, right there. Um, was I showed him a clip of one of our shows, and it was a clip of a lot of the guests that we've had, some incredible guests that we have. We've had Lee Haney, 8-time Mr. Olympia. We had um, Kenny Aronoff, 300 million record that he's played on. We've had Steve Smith, drummer for Journey. I mean, the list goes on. We've had Oba Babatunde, an award-winning actor, who's going to come back. Who's going to be back at the end of February, by the way. So we've had all these great. So we put a little clip together, and we that's what we use to kind of send to other guests and let them know what the show is about and how we actually operate. And I showed it to him, and he was like, "Ron, why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you promoting artists more? Because you always talking." He said, "You always talk about this artist blueprint that you and George are putting together,
Right.
and you have this blueprint that you're doing, but you don't, you're not, you should just call yourself that, And I was like, man, and we had it was a really good conversation, a few hours of just like chatting and trying to kind of like, and then I realized I was like, wow. And then I brought it up to George, and George had the same reaction that I did.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, right. Why don't we,
Duh.
And yeah, duh. It was like a dumb moment. I was like, yeah, well, we've been talking about artists because it always went back to that. And then we
Yep.
started going back to our first episodes,
Right.
like Star Trek. It always went back to like life journey things. And then
Hmm.
as artists, we only know how to relate to life as an artist,
Right.
So it was a very interesting conversation for all of us. And that's when we just said, you know what, how about artist blueprint? And George and I had a meeting. We looked at domain names, and we wanted the artist blueprint, and then artistblueprint.live was like, my God, that's available.
Hmm.
Like, well, let's do it. Our show is live. It's like,
Exactly.
why wouldn't we do that? So we immediately kind of we didn't shift gears. I don't like to say it that way, but we refocused our purpose.
Right.
Our purpose, we had a purpose, but it was not aligned as well as we really could have had it. And now I feel like we're very laser focused on helping the artists and helping individuals succeed in life within their art. And that's what we're doing, and
Exactly.
it took a long time to get to that point.
Yeah.
So if you look at your purpose early, or what you want, what your message, what do you want your message to be? If you look at that early on, and then it'll save you a few years of trying to figure it out. So
Exactly.
that's the first thing. What do you got to say about that?
Well, no, you're absolutely right. And your message could be, it may not necessarily be like the way we did it, right? Because John and I were just a couple, two cousins who grew up together and then decided to let's take all those conversations that we had about music and Star Trek and all this and just put them here and just have fun. Really, that was kind of the premise of it. You could have a brand, you could have a company, you could have a product, and you want to talk about that. Let's say you love that product, you love that brand or whatever it is, and you want to create a show around that, or you want to create a show around that industry, or something in that industry, or have guests that, that type of. So, you have to look at it in those terms as well. Like John said, exactly. What do you want to say, or what do you want to talk about? Or again, if it's, and what was it? I forgot who it was that said that, everybody should have a podcast, regardless. I mean,
Oh
they
yeah,
should be promoting something, even if it's just them, they want to talk and chat,
yeah,
why not? You
yeah.
know?
You just never know what can come from it, and it's also, we're and this is something that just kind of came to me right now. We work, we have jobs, we have responsibilities, we have families, we have we have church, we have baseball teams that we play in, we have sporting, there's those kinds of connections that we have in our lives. But there really isn't a place where you go and you sit down and you actually give your thoughts
Yeah,
on
right.
something.
Exactly.
Unless you have like a really good friend that you constantly, but okay, that's good, that's cool, but there isn't really a time in our lives where people say, why don't you talk to me about how you feel about this?
Hmm.
Or let's talk about how the challenges you had as a child
Right.
growing up in whatever environment that you had. What was the biggest challenge? And that's something that people just feel like, well, that was just my life. Nobody really cares about that, but it's not true at all.
Right.
We care about, we're human beings, so we care about each other. So we
Right.
we do we are. This is why social media is a thing, because people want to socialize. We are a, a species that needs each other, to connect with and to communicate with and to share ideas and to discuss things and to disagree on stuff.
Yep.
It's part of who we are.
Right.
So that whole the idea that we shouldn't have a podcast, or that, and maybe for your, and there's some people that just are not going to do that, right?
Right. Of
And
course.
that's not and we're not saying that everyone has to have a podcast to be happy, but we're saying if you felt even for a split second that you can communicate something that you felt could help someone, then you should have a podcast. If you
Agreed.
even thought about it, you should have it, and you shouldn't let those barriers. And some of those barriers are significant. I mean,
Yep.
I get it. There are fears out there, and I've had the same fear starting, for the first time, and it was nerve wracking. I remember the first time I commented on someone's post, and they commented back. I remember saying, "Hey, that's a great photo," thanks. I'm like, oh my god, they actually commented back. Like,
Right. Right.
I
Right.
mean, this is a an amazing leap from that to where we currently are now. So the possibilities are endless, really.
Agreed. Agreed.
The second thing, of this is actually why, 5 reasons. I don't think I even started it. It's 5 reasons why people don't
Right.
start podcasts, and we're gonna then then give you the 5 reasons of how to do a podcast. Like, what are the 5 steps that you really need? And it's really about five. You need 5 things. You know what I mean? It's not a lot. Um, Technical challenges is another one. Some podcasters, they sometimes they feel a little overwhelmed by the technical aspects of podcasting. Whether they have the right equipment. Well, what about my sound? What software do I use? And we're going to talk about that in the other section. But that's part of the learning
Yeah.
process. That's part of that's your responsibility as, if you want to become a musician, you have to practice music. If you want to become a doctor, you got to practice medicine. If you want to become a surgeon, you got to practice cutting things and doing surgery, right? I don't know who you want to practice on, and you but you have to practice. Now, then you become a professional. So, like a doctor, well, actually, a doctor never becomes a professional. They're always practicing medicine.
True.
So let's move that out of the equation. But somebody who's a professional, a baseball player who goes out there and they got to take how many swings? 100,000 swings before they get to the major leagues. You know what I mean? Like, you got to take a lot of swings. How many basketball shots did Michael Jordan take
Mm.
before he got to the NBA, or before he was even accepted in college? You have to put that time in, and that time takes. Sometimes it takes being quiet and sitting down and studying something,
Right.
right? And going to podcast, webinars, and reading books and following those that you admire. And it takes a little bit of time, But the technical challenges today have become so easy. They've made it so easy now because it's a demand.
Yeah.
There's a demand. So this microphone, this StreamYard, this webcam, these lights, these are extremely easy to get. They're not that expensive. This webcam is about $40. A couple of lights, $20 each. This microphone, now you can get this exact microphone I paid about almost 200 for when I first got it. It's available now for about $80 on Amazon. This
Wow.
exact mic. It's called a G the hell's it called? G Track Pro. It's a great microphone, but it's $80, And then you got a computer and you're ready to go. You are literally ready to go. StreamYard is a great software. There's a lot of other platforms. So the technical challenges that people run into today are much easier to overcome than they were, say, 5 years ago or even 10 years ago when I was actually starting to try to figure out podcasting. I had like a mixer board, and I would have to record on my microphone, two microphones, into the mixer board, and then take that mixer board and put it out into into a computer, into a file, and then from the computer I had to upload it to like I can't even remember the site that I used to upload it to now, but Block Talk
Blog
Radio.
Talk Radio. Yeah.
Yeah, Block Talk Radio. And that took a long time, and that was a learning curve, and realizing, oh, the mic was too low, or my mic was too low, or her mic was too high, whoever I was doing a podcast with. I tons of today that's not there.
Right.
It's just not there.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, and again, I mean, you nailed it. It's pretty much, it's so much easier now. And a lot of people talk about being on a budget and not being able to, oh, I can't do that. It's, even the lowest equipment still looks better compared
Your
to what.
phone.
Yeah, exactly, your phone.
Your
And
phone.
and here's the thing, people talk a lot of crap about equipment, but they'll pay $1,000 for an iPhone. Okay,
Correct.
which
a
that
thousand
phone.
dollars if you're lucky.
Exactly, which that phone a lot of times is as good as any video camera. Okay, you could just put that there, hook up a headset to it, and record.
Yeah, and we're also talking, there's video and there's audio
Right,
podcast, right? So let's say
exactly.
you only want to do George and I do a live. George and I are extreme cases, because we do this live. This is happening right now
Right,
in real time, and we do this visually, and we do it audio.
right.
So we've managed to figure out, again, very, very simple. It's not a complicated thing. StreamYard pretty much does everything,
Yep.
and we just kind of we just show up, and we just create our topics and get our guests. Um, but you can do on your phone. You can have a podcast,
Yep.
literally on your phone today, tonight. You can start for free, for free. So the next one, number three, is time constraints. With a lot of people think that they don't have enough time to do that. Um, and that can be a valid reason. I mean, some people, you have a family, you have kids. That's I guess that would be a family. Um, you you have animals you got to take care of. You got a job that it's very demanding. Whatever it is, George and I have done episodes in the past about time, and we've done shows about how many hours there are in a week, which is what was it, 167
Yeah.
in 7 days, or
Yeah.
168, something like
Well, yeah, something like that.
that. And when you take out all the, and this is something you'll hear, it's a broken record that I say, but when you take out the 40 hours a week, let's just say 40 hours, give you an extra 10 hours for commuting time, watching your TV shows, sleeping, showering, eating, going out with your friends, going to the movies. You take all those things out, you still have a chunk of about between 25 and 30 hours of time to apply to stuff. Where does
Yeah.
that time go? Well, only you know,
Right.
right? Only you can really, do a strict audit on your time to know, like, oh, you know what? I realize that when I get home, I take an hour where I don't do anything. I'm literally just, well, you can come home and, a lot of people use that time also to work out,
Yep.
maybe cook, from like 7 to 10, to 10 o'clock when we're watching TV, grab an hour, take an hour out, and just say, I'm going to do a quick podcast. I'm going to talk about, that's what George and I do. I mean, you talk about busy. I mean, I have a schedule that probably a lot of you, anyway, it's very, very busy, and the fee, I get afraid of it because I know it's getting busier.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually getting busier, and it's going to get busier. I'll always do this podcast wherever I am. I will always, Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I will be here doing this show. It'll be like an extreme case, and George and I have been here pretty consistently, for doing this show for the last almost 3 years now that we've been going at this. So the time is something you have to really sit down with and say, okay, can I really do this? Can I really do this? Because it can take, people say, well, it takes editing, it takes promoting the episode, it takes, um, um, you know, s- uh, scheduling people to come in. I have a full time job, my family, all the stuff that we talk about. You have to sit down and you have to audit your time and really be really strict with yourself. Be really strict. Like, say, what am I really doing?
Hmm.
What am I really doing right now? I'm just enjoying some coffee, sitting down, staring at a wall. Well, maybe I could be doing something. So if you do that, you'll find some time to. If you really cannot find time, well, then maybe you should just cut some stuff out. I do that sometimes. You have to find time. You have to say no to things.
Well, people also have to remember that a podcast doesn't have to be an hour. A
Right.
podcast could be
Yeah, that's
10
another thing.
minutes.
That's
Okay.
true.
There's short form content, there's long form content. Okay. My
That's
podcast
true.
started out 20 minutes,
Right.
when I first started. But so, carve out 10 minutes, talk about a thing that you want to talk about,
Yeah.
and just record it, and then put it out.
Yeah.
That's just start it that way. And then, little by little, you may realize, oh, maybe I have more to say. Maybe I have more to say. So maybe it'll grow a little bit. It'll grow a little bit, and you maybe get to 15 minutes and that type of thing. And then, because when you start finding yourself in a groove, then
Yes.
it's like, oh, wait a minute,
I
and
like.
I want to do this, and I want to start. And I got into that too. I was like, not. I've had show. It's funny. I look at my first shows, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But my first show was probably 20 minutes. I've done shows an hour and a half.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I go anywhere in between that. I don't really have a time constraint.
Yeah.
I just do whatever is I feel is right, as long as I can get all the content that I need to put in,
Yeah.
and then I just put it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right, what you said, because you do get into a groove.
Yep.
You start implementing this, and I used to do a thing when I was in Bayonne, that 7 a.m. thing. I called it 7 a.m. and I would just go live at 7 a.m. for sometimes 15 minutes, sometimes 20 minutes,
Yep.
and I would just do a little whatever. I had a topic, and I would just talk about it to start my day. It was almost like a self affirmation for me, but at the same time, it actually communicated to the audience. I did over 130 episodes of that, and it was a lot of fun, but it was very quick,
Yeah.
very very quick. And so, yeah, so time is something that you have to really just, because it's the only thing that you can't buy more of.
Right. Exactly.
You can't buy a lot of time. You can't, and once it's gone, it's gone. You can't go back, and so it is precious. So we should treat it that way.
Agree.
Treat it as that. Number four is perfectionism. So you know your first couple shows may be technically perfect because you may spend a lot of money on the gear and it look great and stuff like that. And maybe you're used to talking, and it'll go great. But there's always going to be something that you can do better. If you think you're going to get perfect at this, you don't do this. Don't do this, because it's like playing an instrument. I mean, I've been playing for a long time. I don't play guitar perfect. I know musicians, great musicians of all time, and don't play the guitar perfect. Maybe Stevie Ray Vaughan, but other than that, I can't imagine anybody else. And probably Stevie Ray Vaughan, and maybe Buddy Rich,
Yeah.
drummer, and who maybe were different. But no, but I mean, it's always going to be a learning thing. So the desire to try to be perfect can hinder your motion, your forward
Correct.
motion. It can give you anxiety.
Yep.
It can make you stop from even doing anything. And it could also make you just say, you know what, I'm not going to do it because, I've heard people say this, I'd rather just not do it if it's not going to be perfect. I
Right.
just don't want to do it then,
Right.
and that's sort of like a cop out.
Right.
That's sort of a cop out because it ain't going to be perfect, and it ain't never going to be perfect. And that's okay. There are podcasts right now that have Joe Rogan's podcast. It's not perfect. He knows it's not perfect. But a lot of people tune into it because he's consistent and he stays with it, and he's not concerned with being perfect,
Right.
and that's part of the biggest thing.
You also have to, again, and I've talked about this in the past, but don't fall into the trap of looking at Joe Rogan or looking at these other guys and trying to measure
Oh yeah, we've
yourself.
fallen into that. Yeah, we've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
down.
Try to measure yourself to that. Okay, because especially if you're just starting, because again, if you're a person like me who was very introverted, who just could barely say the words on a mic, you're not going to be that. You have to start somewhere. So again, 10 minutes or whatever it is, just put your idea out there, start talking, pretend that you're just chatting with your friend and say what you want to say, put it out there. And again, as like we talked about, as you get into the groove, you'll start improving, you'll start getting better. But you can't, again, like you perfect, exactly what you said, you're not going to be perfect. You can just improve and keep improving. As long as you're improving and kind of the scale is going up,
Right.
every week or however long you decide to do that, then you're good. You're
Yeah.
good because you will, the consistency will come, and people little by little will start to discover you and kind of get into it. So
Yeah. Yeah, and just being able to know that you can improve.
right.
You know it's going to get better. Like, I always show this photo, right? Because it's a clear, sign of where I
Yep.
started.
Yep.
You know, the camera was blurry. I don't know why the camera was so blurry, but that's how the camera was. I did a bunch of shows like this, and they're still out there somewhere. God help us. But I have a big headphones, and that's what I had at the time. I knew that I wanted to do something like this for a long time, and was always kind of like, experimenting with different forms and different formats. As soon as I was early on into social media, even though I was older, I knew immediately the impact that it can have.
Right.
I was like, wow, this is so this can be big. It was like I remember thinking, and so I wanted to learn a lot about it. So I was experimenting a lot, but it took a lot to get from that photo to the one right next to it to right here, right now, where we are. It took about it took years,
Yeah.
longer than exist. We've been doing this for 3. I've
Mm.
been doing it for like five or six in this format,
Right.
and then before that, I was doing it on audio
Right.
with cables around my neck and just trying to figure things out. So the idea that it's going to be perfect is can really hurt you. So try to really fight against that as much as you can. Vaya con Dios. The number 5 and the last one here is lack of clear idea or niche. And Joy, we talked about that a little bit. If you don't have a clear vision of what your podcast is going to be about, you're going to have a really difficult time defining who your audience is,
Yep.
and because it'll be all over the place. Now we know now that, like, this talk that we're doing today is for the artist, right? Artists, we want them to have podcasts, but there's business people out there that are also artistic in that world.
Right.
There's an art form to being an accountant. There's an art form to so many different things. So these are our. We knew that was going to be our. We always knew it, but we never really took, the leap
Mm-hmm.
until recently, and now we know. So, but if you're uncertain about what you want to talk about, one of the things that you can do is find like 2 of your good friends, you know, and start and tell them what's the thing that we talk about that we like.
Mm. Yeah.
And that's how George and I kind of did start that. And you know what? George and I can sit here for like 5 hours and talk about Picard,
Yeah.
not even Star Trek, just Picard, or William Shatner and T.J. Hooker. So we can talk about everything about that, right? So that's why we kind of went into that, because that was our initial thing. Now that was sort of like our entry drug to the podcasting world, where we realized, okay, it's an artistic thing. It has to do with artists. That's why we suddenly got guests from Star Trek and that were
Right.
appeared in Star Trek and stuff. And that's why we started doing the interviews. And it always went into life challenges, into life and moving as an artist and overcoming ups and downs and all that stuff that happens through life. Um, it built from that first initial conversation that we had.
Right.
So find some friends and and ask them what is it that we like to talk about, and they may tell you, well, we're always talking about this. We're always talking about crime shows. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
really? Oh, that's true. We all will. Yeah, we always talk about crime shows. That's true. I never really thought about that, but we always talk about that. Yeah, because we love crime shows.
Yeah.
Well, there's a possibility. There's your niche. If you always talk about it, that means you know something about it,
Exactly.
enough about it that somebody else will be interested in, and there's a market there. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people that are into crime shows. There's a lot of people that are into cooking. There's a lot of people that are into just Spanish cooking or just Indian cooking or a very specific type of cooking. There's a lot of different things that you can do on that. So that's number five. One of the things that I will say is that in order to overcome like the fears and the technical challenges and the time constraints, trying to be perfect, and then the lack of a clear idea is through proper planning
Yep.
and education.
Right.
You have to, you know, proper planning, that means over planning. That's not what I'm not saying. Go home now or if you're already home, I'm not saying sit down and start planning and you're going to put out a podcast in 6 months. No, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm saying proper planning. Proper planning can be quick.
Yep.
Okay, I need a microphone. I need a camera. I need a
Yep.
light. I need to look more into StreamYard. I'm going to do that all tomorrow. That's simple.
Right.
That's the plan, and then I'm going to put on the first podcast on Saturday. Saturday, I'm going to do it because I'm home Saturday, and I'm going to do the first one on Saturday. Proper planning. And if you need some education to get to that point, then you get yourself educated, but you have to be willing to learn and you have to be willing to adapt to the world of podcasting. You have to be willing to adapt to it.
Correct. Agree. And you also have to realize that this medium, is the long game.
It is
It is the long game. You have to be prepared for the fact that, again, there's a certain percentage. And I don't know if we've gone over the percentage of podcasts that don't get past like 3 episodes, right?
Yeah, I was like, it was
Right.
high. It was
Yeah, it was a huge percentage.
like
That
90
gets,
something percent.
when I look at my show and I say, okay, I've passed 100,000 episodes, that's great. Now, in the podcasting world, it's not, those numbers are not huge. Okay, now 10 years ago would have been huge, but right now, but for me and how I started,
It's your personal success.
it's a huge thing because it's like a personal because it was one of the markers that I wanted to hit when I realized I was getting there, and I was like, okay, that's going to be my next marker. Bang, I hit that. Okay, so now I have my next goals that I'm trying to reach. So, and I want to kind of talk a little bit about my story because I think it'll help folks out there who are hesitant about it. Okay,
Yeah,
and
before that,
yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
I'm going to talk about your story because then at the end, I'm going to give the actual things you need to actually do the
Yes,
podcast. That's
absolutely.
I just wanted to say that. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So, and again, I'll summarize it because it's not going to, it's not. I'm not going to drag it out or
No, no,
anything. But
take your time.
basically, again, for those who don't know me, John grew up with me, so he knows everything about me. I was a very, 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 very introverted kid. Okay, still to this day, technically introverted. I'm not going to be the loudest guy in the room. I'm not going to be the flashiest guy. Even in drumming, I'm not a flashy guy. I do what I need to do, and I get the job done. But I've never been Mr. Personality, Mr. Flash, Mr. That's just not me. I'm very, like this. I love to have a good time, I love to smile, I love to joke, but I'm not, these guys that are like, it's just not. So, okay. So that being said, a lot of people know my story that I had a lot of chronic issues, whatever. And through nutrition and fitness and health and changing my life, I got rid of all those chronic problems. And through that journey, I learned a load about nutrition and health and fitness and all this type of stuff. And I really dove into it. I became obsessed with it. That and music were like my two obsessions. And, we were already playing in bands. We had Glass of No. We were doing all these things, right? And then I was listening, so on my off time, I would listen to health. And I would read books on health, tons of books and all this. And then there were health guys doing radio shows. And I'll never forget it. Gary Null who was one of my heroes, John.
Oh, yeah.
He Gary Null, for those of you who don't know, he's one of the health gurus in alternative health. He's been doing his show for 50 years. He's got the longest running health program in the world. And the thing is that he doesn't miss a show. If
Yeah.
he's like driving, he'll do his show. Okay. Doesn't miss. And this guy's busy. He's written like 50 books. You know, he's out there, he's doing things. So anyway, he was one of my heroes. And I was like, so I said to myself, now this is interesting because I said, I would love to do something like that and talk to people about what I learned through my journey in health. And then I said, that's when I started going through like, well, who the hell is going to listen to me? I'm not Gary Null. I'm not these guys. I'm not, I'm not whatever. And I don't have a degree. I'm not a doctor. Who's going to listen to me? So I went back and forth on it. Now, this was 2012. Okay. 2012, where podcasting was just starting. It was just a blip on the radar. But I said, you know what? I bought myself a little microphone. Actually, no, it was a headset mic that you had. Mm-hmm. I had a headset mic. I plugged it in and I said, you know what? I'm just going to start talking about health news, whatever's on there. And I'll do a little thing, So I recorded it and I got a clipping of whatever the news thing was at the time on supplements or something. And I just started talking about it. And it was like 20 minutes. Then I started doing it every week. 20 minutes here, 25 minutes, 20 minutes here. And by the way, those episodes are still up. If anybody wants to listen to those episodes, literally you'll see the date. It'll say like 2012. You can listen to how bad I was. I was like, vitamin C is good and you take it by mouth and then it goes to immune system's very nice. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, so I was I was bad, right? And now here's the funny thing, right? I did about 100 episodes of that. So by the 100th episode, I was better, right? So I was starting to get a flow a little bit. I was really getting into whatever. And then I got into my own head and I said, I don't know if anybody's listening. And then life got in the way and I started doing it. So I stopped doing it. Okay. And I said, yeah, nobody's going to listen to me. So I went back to my life and I was doing some consulting. I was doing all these things. I was really doing other things. And then one day, a few years later, I went back to that software that I was using and I logged in and I looked and there was 8,000 downloads. And I said, 8,000 people downloaded my show. I was like, how come nobody told me this? I was like, I didn't know this, and I was like, I can't believe that I couldn't get 8,000 people to do anything. I was like, how could they listen? So then it clicked on me. I was like, wow, that's very interesting. The fast forward to now we're getting to the pandemic and John has his shows. He's doing his morning show, which I was listening to and watching actually in the morning. I see his big face in the morning while I'm drinking my cup of coffee. And then he was doing his JHS interview show, which I watched as well. I had some great guests on that. And then John invites me to go on his show to talk about health because at the time when the pandemic just started, people wanted to know about the immune system. But the funny thing is that John invites me on his show. Then I had two other people invite me on their show. So I go on their show, and then John invites me on again twice. So I go on your show 3 times. I go on 2 other shows. So I'm getting these invitations because everybody knows that I'm into health and nutrition to talk about immune system. So after a while, I was like, you know what? I need to get back into this podcasting shit again. I was like, because I'm doing this anyway. So right. I might as well start doing it. So I bought a microphone. I set up my computer, I got a webcam, and I started again. And again, I started audio, and then as I'm doing it now, I was doing it much better because I already had so much more knowledge than I did back in 2012. Yeah. And then I felt much better about what I was talking about because I knew so much more than then. And I had already talked about it on your show, so it was much easier. So it just started flowing. So I started doing it and doing it. And then then you told me, you should do video. And I was like, but John, I suck on video. And but every time I would turn on like something on TV, it was like, well, maybe you should just turn on the camera, record it audio, but just have the camera just capture it. So I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I'll just do it. And I just turned the camera on and I started doing it. First, when the camera turned on, I was like, oh, and so I went back to my 2012 first show, like, vitamin C,
Very good
yeah.
stuff. I like
But
to take it in mouth.
okay, so I started doing that, and lo and behold, just so you guys know, I think I'm at maybe 230 shows now. And the last bunch of shows in the last couple of months have had prominent doctors on that I've interviewed.
Big doctor.
Okay, big doctors, health and nutrition experts. Next week I have a scientist who has like 7 degrees coming on my show. Okay, and if you would have told me 10 years ago, 12 years ago that I would have had that, I would have been like, you are crazy. The only reason I'm getting to this point, I've gotten, and again, you realize there's a skill to interviewing, there's a skill to doing it, but compared to the way I was doing it, I'm way ahead. Okay, and it's only because of the repetition, doing it over and over and over. But I love the content. So
Right.
it's content that even if nobody was listening, I would still talk about. Even if it was just John, I would still talk about because I'm passionate about talking about the content. And it comes through, okay? Because you have to have that passion. So it's a combination of consistency with the passion of doing it. And then you got to get through the technical stuff because there's always tech. There was some that sounded horrible. The mic wasn't working right and all this. So you have to go through those pains and stuff like that to do. Green screens were terrible. But I'm at a point now where I'm so much more comfortable. And if you guys ever watch my show, the Wellness Talk, as you compare it to the way I was, it's a whole different ballgame. But the point being is that if you would have known me when I was younger, you would have said this guy would have never do this ever in his life. And I'm doing it. And now I'm actually hitting markers and I'm getting success and I'm looking forward to the next couple of years because I'm hoping to be hitting more markers and really get it going. I got sponsors now. And I have flooding emails now of doctors who want to be on my show now. I don't even reach out to them. Now they're reaching out to me saying, hey, I want to be on your show. Hey, I enjoy your show. I've had people say, hey, I listen to your show on my drive to work. And I'm like, holy cow. So that's just a little thing about my story, but it
I love
goes
it.
to show you that it can be done with the perseverance and you have to, get past those things. Once you get past those things, it can totally be done. That's my
Wow.
story.
That's so awesome. I mean, that is the perfect success story of what we're doing today. You know what I mean? Because again, I think the content, you had something you wanted to say,
Right.
you had an area you wanted to kind of like go into.
Right.
And I think that really, and in the fact, when you get in your own head, you said, you got in your own head, and then but you came back again,
Right.
and those things, that's hard to do
It is. It
sometimes.
is.
I
Yep.
mean, people, if they've made up their mind they're not doing it anymore, they won't go back. They will not go back. So the fact that you did that is just a testament to, the your education in health. It's
Yep.
giving you more of a discipline.
Right.
You're
Exactly.
you're you're disciplined with your body,
Yep.
getting your back in order again, and your allergies and all the stuff that you had when we were growing up. I mean, George was like constantly with tissue because he's had all these allergies and he had a back problem and all that
Yep.
stuff you resolved it all through natural means.
Yep.
So there's a passion behind it that's personal.
Yes.
So I think if,
Yes.
if if anyone out there is listening to that, and you just heard George's story, that's really where you want to look at. What is it that you're passionate about, that you overcame, that you want to share with others?
Right.
Like, it's really an amazing story. So we're very, very grateful that George is doing the show that he does, because he is also helping a lot of people and getting a lot of great information out there. So check out his show as well. You can go to artistblueprint.live and you can go right into his show
Yep.
and check it out. So I want to just quickly, I want to give you what you need to actually start, and you can start as fast as you just start. You can start when you want to start. You know what I mean? You can decide when you want to start. I always say, start now, because a lot of stuff will come in the way, and you will get discouraged, or somebody will tell you something, or people sometimes are assholes, right? I mean, and they don't mean to be.
Right.
I think I think there's a certain sense of wanting to protect your feelings.
Yeah.
They don't want you to get hurt. They don't
That's
want
right.
you to fall on your face. They don't want you to be a failure or whatever. And it's really, they're just projecting their own fears
Right.
on you. Don't take those fears. Don't take that garbage. You make your own plans. You decide. Keep your own counsel, no matter what that is. You say, I'm going to do this. Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. You keep going. And I've done that. I've done that with people. Like, people say, "Oh, don't hang out with that person," because then I look and I'm like, I don't see what you're saying about that person, and I find out that they were wrong, and then they're the ones that are. You have to, like, really look and keep your own counsel on things. So that's number one. Before anything, you have to get there. The mindset is really has to be strong, because you are going to be discouraged,
Yep.
either by your own thoughts or by someone else that just has, in their world, they've failed, and they just don't know how else to deal with it, so they just project their own failures on people. And there's also a sense of, like, they don't want you to get above them.
Right.
They don't want you to do more than they're doing.
That's
It's
right.
like, no, 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 just keep it down here with us. Stay down here, be normal, go down, go to work, come home, have your weekends off, and then 2 week vacation. That's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that either, if that's what a person wants. But
Right.
generally, a person who wants to do a podcast um, has other visions. They're creative people.
Yeah.
They're visionaries. They're entrepreneurial living. They're living in an entrepreneurial sense. So I think that's really the most important part, is that first.
Agreed.
So we're going to go into some technical stuff real quickly. I'll tell you exactly what you need to start your podcast. We're almost at the top of the hour, so we want to get some stuff out there. You do need you could do stuff on your phone. You can do stuff on your phone. If you have a headset, you get better audio on that.
Yep.
I will tell you that a good quality microphone is crucial in podcasting, because if George and I was having a conversation right now, and it was like not like and you're getting that, or you're getting if you're getting that kind of stuff, um people tend to just turn it off. It's the
Correct.
same thing with a film. If a film, it's shot beautifully, the best camera, the best landscapes, and it's gorgeously shot, and gorgeous people on screen, and the voice are not just slightly off. The person is talking, and then the voice comes out. You have a ruined film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody sound ruined. So getting a good quality microphone is an important thing. You can get a good quality microphone for about $100.
Mm-hmm.
$100. If you have a little bit more money, cool. Like I said before, this one right here, it's a great mic. It's a heavy duty mic. It'll be around for like 100 years. It's got different features on it and all that stuff. I can bring it down so you guys can just see. It's got all different features, volume, different tones. You can also turn it into what direction you want it to pick up and all that stuff.
And now we can't hear you.
I pulled the mic.
I was gonna say it's so good that we can't hear him.
and and it does have a mic cable that when you pull it out, no one hears you. But anyway, it comes with all that. So this mic right here, $100, you can get a good mic. Camera, webcams, now you can get a 4K camera for like $40.
Yep.
You can look as crystal clear as you want to look.
Mm-hmm.
Lighting, I have 2 ring lights. I do have what they call a box light, which is like for film, because I'm a filmmaker, so I have these things. You don't need a box light, but I have a box light over here.
Right.
I have a ring light here, and I have another ring light here that I don't even have it on. And look, the only reason I don't have it on is because it's almost too much. Watch. See?
Oh yeah.
It's a little bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need it. So
Right.
I have one ring light. I have a couple of other little lights, little area lights. That's what I have for lighting. That right there, $20. If you wanted a box light, which you don't need, you can get a box light for like $25
Right.
on Amazon. And these other little tiny lights, I got those from Walmart. They're little lamp lights, and I got those facing up to the top. It kind of sometimes it bounces off and gives that in the back. So 20, that's $80 of the lighting stuff, right? And you guys can write down StreamYard. We use StreamYard. George and I love StreamYard. I probably will never use anything else unless StreamYard goes out of business for whatever reason, you know. But StreamYard is a subscription service. I have the highest end stuff, which is like $49 per month. But for what you get, we we're still kind of surprised that they charge this little, because I can go live on 8 different platforms at the same time. We're live right now on 4 Facebook pages, on YouTube, on Twitter or X, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Those are all the pages that we're live right now on with just StreamYard. And all I did was just click the thing, and I just started a live stream show. It was extremely simple. They have great customer support. They have also great, and George could talk a lot about that because he uses StreamYard for his show as well.
Yep. And by the way, they if you're really budget conscious, first of all, they do have different tiers. They even have a free plan that you can actually use and go live on.
I was going to say
You
that
can
next.
you can go live on it, and it doesn't have all the features, but it has enough features that you can go live and still stream it out to YouTube or whatever you want to do. And it's great, and it's great. It's got a lot of great. And then they also have a because I follow it a lot. They have their Sunday night kind of webinar that they talk about their new features. The two owners of StreamYard come out. They talk about the new features. So I keep up with it to see what new stuff is coming on. So yeah, fantastic
Great
platform to, and one of the biggest things is they're very easy to use. So if you're not really that technical, it's a very simple system to use. So definitely
Very
check them
simple.
out. Yeah.
Very simple. And you basically have the us right now, and on the side you have photos that you've uploaded, videos that you uploaded. This back end that you see here, artist blueprint with the down at the bottom with the website, it says live. That's something I made on Canva. Canva is another software that's very inexpensive, like $12 a month. But they also have a free version as well, where you can get a ton of stuff done on there, to create all these little graphic things. So those are some of the elements. So that's the technical stuff, right? Some of the technical things. So the quality microphone and the editing software. You can also edit on this as well.
Mm-hmm.
You can do some little editing on this. We go live, so what you see is what you get. It goes out, and it is what it is. So we don't do any editing. I like that. Now you could also record an episode, and then you can chop it up into pieces. You can have little clips. I mean, we can do that with any show that we do, but you could also get a little bit more production value on the front end and on the back end or in the middle if you also want to infuse other clips. So you could say, all right, let's go to the videotape, and you can show a clip. Although we can share a screen right here right now, and I can share a video as well directly from my computer. So you can do that live too. But if you want to do it recorded, you can do it recorded and then just later on upload it to all the platforms that you wanted to upload, and do it through StreamYard and schedule them. So you'll know that I think George does that, right? Every a certain time of the week, a show will get uploaded. So that's StreamYard. That's the editing. That's the software part of it. The content. So content is always going to be king, right? We've heard that people say that before, and so you have to plan your episodes. Plan them thoughtfully and with your content, and make sure the topic kind of resonates with the audience that you're trying to engage with. So one of the things that George and I do is we wrote down a ton of just things that we wanted to talk about, like subjects that were relating to being an artist, to being a musician, to being a drummer, a guitar player in a band, a manager. How do you deal with managers? How you work in the studio? We've had all these conversations on the show dealing with the artist world. So be thoughtful with it. Make sure also that you're authentic.
Yeah.
Be as authentic. Be you. If you
Hmm.
curse, curse. If you don't want your guests to curse, tell them that you don't like cursing. If you don't care, just go for broke. I mean, George and I are not really foul mouths here. Every once in a while, I'll say something, but we don't really go there because that's not really our personalities.
Right.
I don't talk that way outside either. You know what I mean? So we're authentic, as who we are. If you meet us, and people have actually told me this, that I've met, like after they've been on the show, you're exactly like you are on the show, except you're much shorter. Like, oh man, it ain't right. But definitely try to, in the beginning, you're going to be a little bit nervous,
Yeah.
so obviously there'll be part of that you're kind of like compensating, to try to be as authentic as you possibly can. But with what George said, just doing it, just consistently doing it, you're going to do it. And number four is actually consistent schedule.
Yep.
Stay consistent. I
Yes.
mean, if George and I say we're going to be here Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then we don't show up on a Tuesday, on another Tuesday, and then we show up on Thursday at 4, and then we come back on a weekend night, and we're doing a podcast on a weekend night, then you're losing trust with
Right.
the audience. People know Tuesday night, 7 p.m. That's when we're on. And George and I would love to do the show Monday through Friday, or at least Monday through Thursday, and take Friday off. With guests and stuff like that, and that would be a great thing
Hmm.
to just do this consistently with more sponsors, and
Hmm.
if it paid off and if it made sense for us to do that,
Yep.
we would love to do that. But consistent on your scheduling is important. If you're saying it's once a month, do it once a month. If you're saying it's bi-weekly, do it bi-weekly, but make sure you stick on it, because it helps people also anticipate your show,
Exactly.
and within the week you also can start getting them ready for the show, and start sharing, hey, don't forget to catch us next week, we're gonna do our show again, and that's important. The last one here, and is this is something that George and I work on, and we're not really great at. We're getting better at this right now, but it is effective promotion.
Hmm.
So we've have done some of it, but we have not done it to the best of our abilities, because our abilities are not that good at that. So one of the things that George and I have talked about is actually to bringing in someone to actually do the promotion, paying someone to do. And I don't mean paying for likes. I'm talking about an actual person
Right.
that does
Right.
marketing, like a PR company. Like we work with two PR companies right now that book our guests,
Yep.
right? So we would love to work with like a PR company like that, that would actually help us promote, get George and I on other podcasts. Like George has been invited on podcasts. I'm doing one next week that I was invited on, and consistently promoting the show is difficult, because we have other things going on, but it's so important, and I'm realizing it, that it's probably, out of all the things that George and I have, it's probably the weakest that we have.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
the consistent visibility of what we've done, what we're doing, and what we're going to do.
Right.
So that's really, really important. And we're getting there, and we're getting there. This podcast is very transparent. We don't hold back on what we're going through and what we've struggled with. You see the picture of me blurry there. I took that picture from an actual episode. And I was like, I got to show how this was to what this is. Because it just shows growth, and it shows commitment to getting better.
Hmm.
So that's really an important factor. So those are the five things. Each of these things, um, you know can I can help with these things if somebody is out there and they're interested in like reaching out. You can email me, send me an email at john at jhstalentmanagement.com, and I'll just put that up on the screen there. You could email me. Let me know, if you want to know the equipment, the exact name of the equipment, things like that. This phone right here, this is a Samsung. It's called the Samsung G Track Pro. I mean, Logitech makes the best webcams. They're all over the place. It doesn't matter about the ring lights. If you just get a ring light on Amazon for $20, they're usually all pretty good. I mean, they do the same exact feature. They have the same features. The software, if you need a little introduction on StreamYard, I can do that. But again, StreamYard has such a good uh, they have such good videos on how to do stuff.
Hmm.
They have just a lot of features that can really get you to a really good point on it. But again, you can always reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to help you get started. And one of the rules that I have is like if I'm going to take an hour to meet with you, that from that hour, and I'll give you 2 weeks, from that hour you have to have a podcast. That's my Just make the commitment and say, I'm going to meet with John. He's going to give me all the details, and in 2 weeks, I'm going to do my first podcast. And if you want me, I'll be on your podcast, and George will be on your podcast too. But yeah, it's really, really a wonderful way of meeting people. We didn't even really talk about the networking
Hmm.
that George and I have experienced because of this podcast. We
That's
really
right.
didn't even touch upon it, but we've met heroes.
Yes, yes, we
We've met
have.
heroes on this,
Yep.
not just that, but they become such nice friends of ours,
Right.
of the show, and we still chat with them. Like I said, Oba Babatunde, who's a tremendous actor, award-winning actor, Broadway, film, TV. He's become a friend of the show. I mean, he's going to be back on our show at the end of February. I think it's February 27th, I believe. He's
Cool.
going to be back on the show. So we're excited to have him back. But the networking possibilities, and we which really, to be honest, George and I did not expect. I didn't really we knew we would have guests on, but we didn't know that we would have legends, and
Yeah.
that we would also that you can become friends.
Yeah.
We had
Exactly.
Tommy Burke last week, and Tommy Burke was in the film and television industry for 30 years, working behind the scenes, um, on like so many hit shows and,
Yep.
and so many films and everything. And he's retired now, and he came on and he asked, he wanted, he saw some of my films and now he wants to have a conversation with me, and we're gonna said I would have never thought I can speak to a guy who's had so much experience, who I can really learn so much from. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's an incredible opportunity. So think, you can meet people.
Yeah.
You can meet people that are in your world that can really help you move forward
Yeah.
along.
And just yeah, just a really quick, cap on that. Again, as you do it and as you go along, you're gonna not only meet people, but you're also gonna have people who are kind of like fans who love your show, and they're gonna tell you, "Hey, great episode." They're gonna tell you, "Hey, I love listening to you." You know, John and I get that. I get that. I mean, we we have people who love just listening to our goofiness, but it's okay. But because again, this is who we are. You know, don't be like me in the beginning and concern yourself if everybody's who's listening, who's not listening, how many people are listening. You can't get
Exactly.
into that, okay? Because it's a trap to fall into. So, just a quick tip on that: don't worry about it. Just get the information out and keep doing it. Keep doing it, okay? And if you love what you talk about, you're passionate about it, you enjoy it, just do it. Don't
Yeah.
worry about the end because the results will come down the line anyway. Because it's no choice that people will discover you. People will eventually find you, even if it's a few people. You will find fans.
You will.
Okay,
You will.
it will
Absolutely.
happen. It's
It
just a
will.
matter. It's just a matter of consistently doing it. That's all.
Yeah, you will. And it is a very, very interesting feeling when you have, like a micro celebrity, where
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
suddenly somebody says something and they know your work,
Yep.
and you're like, oh, and you don't know who this person is. So now it's a very interesting thing. The the common, I don't say common, but the just individuals in general just don't have that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like we have, like I work in film and stuff, but I'm behind the scenes now, and I'm a writer and I direct and stuff, and music. I play, but I'm like in the, I'm the lead guitarist in the corner. You know, and it's very interesting when they kind of know who you are and what you do,
Right.
and it's a really important platform, to be able to use to get your message out.
Right.
If you can get that type of micro celebrity type thing, it's a really great opportunity to really help others,
Agreed.
because they respect what you're doing, and if they respect what you're doing, others are going to be there too. And one of the things I also think about is that these, you know, I don't know what's going to happen in the world in the next, 100 years, right? Who knows? With depending on how many wars we're in, who's leading the country and stuff. If we're running into wars, who knows? But I like to be optimistic about things, and I like to think that we're going to actually rise above this, and people are going to want to live in peace
Right.
and happiness and love each other. And I believe that that is where we're heading. These episodes that we record, for whatever, they're zeros and ones. They're recorded on some place, and they'll be, some of them are shooting into space through satellites, and our phones are somewhere these zeros and ones will be captured for prosperity. And who knows, in 100 years, our great great grandkids, great could actually experience us having this conversation today and talking about what we're going through, and what's happening, and stuff. And so I think that that's also something that I think about a lot. And for you to think about that, somebody's not gonna, you start thinking, oh, well, nobody's listening to you. They will.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Guarantee you, they
They will.
will. They will. So all right, well, we've gone well past the hour, but again, like George said earlier, we don't really have a time constraint on this. We just talk until we get our point across, and we feel like our message has been received. We hope that this has received you. We hope that you're motivated to go out and start your own podcast and start interacting with the world in a completely different way, and start making those connections, and start really providing the help that others need because of your experiences. That's really what you're doing. You're providing your experiences to others so they can learn from it.
Right.
This is what this is all about. This is why these things exist. This is why anyone goes on a podcast, is because they've experienced something. They've done something that they know can help others, and people want that. And that to me is really an important role. So when you say, I do a podcast, and people be like, oh, everybody does it. No, you're doing an important thing. You're actually
Yep.
communicating with the world, and you're helping the world. For those people that they're insecure, they're there are people out there that make fun of people who do podcasts and stuff like that, and they're just insecure, or they're just not nice people, and they should just let people do what they, get their message out, right? But when you really, really, really decide that you're going to do this, just know that you're in a community of people that really respect what you're doing, and that George and I will always support you. So if you reach out to us, we will guide you as best as we can with the artist blueprint on how to do the podcast and how to get it started and how to grow it. And it's one of our commitments to you. So we hope that you take that to heart, and we will see you all again next week, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. George Batista, thank you very much,
Thank you, sir.
as always. And we will see you all next week. Thank you all. Take care. God bless. And as always, peace.
Peace.